Good morning, Joy 1340 listeners. Again, we are back with another episode of The Conversation. I am Officer Ralph McLean, the Milwaukee Police Department, the recruiter, and I am inside of the Office of Community Relations, Engagement, and Recruiting. And I'm here with my esteemed co-host.
Yes, sir. My name is Jordan Dickerson. I am one of the recruiters with the Milwaukee Fire and Police Commission, and we are back with episode 16.
16
of The Conversation.
Yeah, pretty soon we'll be saying 116.
Right, exactly.
We'll have our 100th episode, and maybe we'll bring in some.
Gotta be somebody special, right?
Yeah, somebody special. But I was thinking more along the lines of like maybe some bread pudding or something to celebrate.
Bread pudding. All right, bread pudding.
But we are glad to be back with you, our listeners. And today's show is a special one amongst special shows. We have inside of the radio studios here, we have the fire chief of the Milwaukee Fire Department, Chief Aaron Lipsky. Chief Lipsky has served the city of Milwaukee for over 25 years, joining the Milwaukee Fire Department in 1997 in the same recruit class, might add, as his older brother, Daniel. Chief Lipsky is a fourth-generation Milwaukee firefighter and Milwaukee resident. Prior to joining, he served for several years as an EMT basic with an urban private ambulance service. And Chief Lipsky also holds a bachelor's degree in communications, minoring in Africology, and a master's degree in public administration, both from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, the great UWM, right here in this great city. We are honored, and it is a privilege to have Chief Lipsky in the studios this morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning. I think we're almost the same because we both hold bachelor's degree in communication. So we're right there.
Exactly right.
Couple of communications majors. Mm-hmm. So, Chief Lipsky, as we do with all of our guests that we have in here, we try to start at the root, at the beginning. And we ask everyone, where were you born, sir, and where were you raised?
Milwaukee, Wisconsin, St. Joseph's Hospital.
You know the hospital, too.
Yeah.
I think that's the first time someone has actually said the hospital.
I don't know why I know that. But
do you know the time?
I don't.
Okay. I was going to say.
I don't. For some reason, I want to say early morning, but I don't know for sure.
That is funny, because my mom, throughout the years, especially when I was younger, would always mention the hospital. Whenever we were talking about me, because I grew up in Chicago, in Cook County, and she would say, Mount Sinai. So we would always say Mount Sinai all the time, Mount Sinai. So I just always associated when someone would say, hey, where did you grow up? Yeah, Chicago. And I would think of the hospital. Yeah. I would never say it, but I would think, I was born in Mount Sinai. But that is, you getting technical, you're nailing it down to the actual place, that you were born. So we're glad to have you here. What side of Milwaukee did you grow up?
So shortly after I was born, we lived right by Washington Park. And from there, we moved a little bit north and west towards 79th and Burleigh. Okay. There was a butcher shop on the middle of the block on Burleigh, Hank and Charlie's. There was a Moyer's restaurant there. These are the details that my brain remembers. And then we jumped out a little bit west to just north of 99th and Burleigh. And then I went to high school and entered the working world and all those things. And now my wife and I live just on the other side of Mount Mary College from there. Little beautiful strip off Hadley Street there around 98th Street. So
Yes, that is a beautiful strip. My wife graduated from Mount Mary. And oftentimes we would take our dog and take our daughter over there, and we would go riding around. So it's a very beautiful neighborhood in those parts. Chief Lipsky, as young Aaron, growing up in that neighborhood, what were you into? What did you like to do at that time?
So anytime I think of that phase, that era of my upbringing, I'm astounded at the distances that my friends and I and my brother would get from home on our bicycles. We would hop on our bikes as soon as we got outside in the morning, and we would just ride. And I am astounded we would go as far as we would go. And you compare that to nowadays, I think, and now, I've got a daughter, she's at UW Milwaukee, and freshman. But now I look and I would she's lucky if I'd let her ride to the end of the driveway on the bike, right? And there's a whole thing with parenting, helicopter parents, and we're too overprotective. And I think there's maybe a negative effect to that too, because you got to get out and explore, but at the same time, you got to balance that with, I want my daughter to be safe. But when I was a kid, we were all over. We were all over. So I liked, we would always work our way to a park of some sort. I spent a lot of time riding over by Hoyt Park, Swan and Menominee River Parkway there. And that was a spot we spent a lot of time at. And it was, it was some real mucking around by the river, screwing around on the trails. We'd go swimming at the pool. I probably shouldn't say this, but it is the truth. We would screw around by the railroad tracks that come through there. We would just sit and watch the trains go by. We thought that was everything you could have wanted was available at a park. And how lucky are we? Hey, we got parks all over the place.
I know.
That sounds amazing. And it's funny when you say just you were able to ride your bike all, how far, however distance far you rode your bike. Because back when I was younger, it's a long time, Ralph. Okay, I know I'm not too old, but it is a long time. Back when I was younger, I could say that. All right. My mom, she used to only have us, when I was younger, she used to say, only drive to the corner and back, or as we got older, it was okay. Maybe you could drive or ride around the block, and that was about it. But that kind of spoke to, I guess, really, if I'm being honest, just the environment that I kind of grew up in. She knew the environment that I grew up in, and she was like, you know what, I have to make sure that I protect you in a certain aspect. So, to this corner and back, that's all it is. But, when I would go, maybe to my brother's house, and he lived out in Germantown, we would have those bike rides where we would just go and go and go. I'm talking about riding bikes for, honestly, an hour, just bike ride, just going anywhere we want. And that's really all it was. We didn't really stay inside much. It wasn't a whole lot of us, playing the games all the time. Don't get me wrong. We did sometimes, our stepdad, he had to get on us and tell us to go outside. But it just really sounds like the time that you grew up in, it was just a really beautiful atmosphere for you. And you were able to do a lot of different things. We were. How do you see that switch now where you say, okay, the difference between the kids from your generation to now?
Sure. So you mentioned the video games. So I was present for the advent of video games. Pong.
Yes.
Right. Atari
2600.
Nintendo. And I know I'm missing some of them in there, but those were brand new things. And so we didn't have them, but some neighbors down the block did. So because whoever invented it, they really hit on something, right? Obviously. So obviously. Everybody would clamor over there, and we'd all fight over who got to play, and then the parents were the exact same as parents are nowadays, irritated that we were sitting in front of a TV on a beautiful summer day, and they would kick us out.
So it wasn't much different at that point in time.
Well, it wasn't much different. And when I lived off 79th and Burleigh, it was a standard city grid block with an alley with a T, and we would play kick the can. I have no idea where this game was invented or what it was, but we would spend hours playing kick the can.
What's kick the can?
All right, so kick the can is.
Do you know what kick the can is?
It is.
Dang.
It's a super complex concept. You have a can, and then you put it in the middle of the alley, and you have two teams. One team has to protect the can. The other team has to get themselves in a position where they can make an attack on it and kick the can, and then you win. And that's what it was. That's it.
Just kick the can.
So now you picture this in an alley with all the garages and yards and fences and trees. We were like SEAL Team 6 creeping next in between bushes, sneaking up to make our charge on the can. And, and it was a different time. There was always the grumpy neighbor who didn't want us in their yard, but the majority of people just understood we're just kids.
Right, trying to have fun.
Running around having fun. And so it was no harm, no foul. They would the lady would be taking her garbage out, and I'd be creeping along between the garbage cans in the garage, and she would be like, "Hey, hold on a sec." And then she would go and put the garbage in, and then she'd be like, "Go now."
Oh my goodness! You formed an alliance with the lady.
So they would help us out,
Yeah.
And boy, we'd get into all sorts of stuff, and so much fun was had in that alley and riding the bikes like we were talking about. And I think I fear now that it seems as if the trouble that folks can get into is so much more permanent and deadly. And that's sad. I'm sure you had the concept of when the street lights go on,
come in the house.
Right, that
absolutely.
was the universal
He was running
rule.
back to the home. Yep.
Right, and if you wanted to eat lunch, you better be back by lunch, or you're just waiting till dinner.
Right,
and that's just how it was. And there's an innocence lost, I fear, with how things are, and people have a rightful interest in their own survival and the survival of their children. They have a rightful interest in that, and it's sad that so much emphasis has to be on that nowadays. Because, quite frankly, those are my formative years, and I had to learn some simple things. I had to learn how to navigate traffic so that I didn't get hit by a car on my bike. Right, I had to learn to respect traffic laws. I had to learn to respect the water along the river. Right. Yes. And I fast forward to this point in my life, and I just had my 27th anniversary on the Milwaukee Fire Department a few days ago.
Wow, congratulations. Yeah.
Right. And I look back at the number of times now that I have responded for kids who didn't understand or learn to respect the water or learn how to swim. The number of times that I've responded for kids that have died crossing streets being hit by cars. And those were things I sort of had to learn on, not on my own. I had guidance. I had, parents who were steering me in the right direction. And certainly my father was a firefighter. And so he was, and my grandfather too, they were always telling me these stories. I didn't understand why they were telling me at the time, but they were telling me these stories of, you gotta always look both ways because if the car comes, blah, blah, blah. And, you're a kid, you're like, yeah, whatever. Well, now I'm fortunate enough to be able to kind of seal the deal on this end and look back and go, there were reasons for all the stories.
Right.
And those reasons were, and I can remember this would actually happen. I can remember my father calling from work. He would call, and my stepmother would answer the phone. And then, no, they're right here. They're fine. No, okay. All right. Love you. Bye. Hang the phone up. And it was my dad calling from work just to check that we were okay. And it wasn't because he just had a random thought to check that we were okay. It was because he had just been to some horrific scene where a kid roughly our age had died or suffered some horrible injury. And he couldn't process that until he checked and we were okay. And boy, I tell you what, I understand that now.
I was going to ask that. Is that something that you see now yourself kind of doing? Like when you have gone to some calls and you see somebody who reminds you of the age of your daughter and you're like, wow, like I just want to call and check in. It
has happened so many times. I had just a horrible incident when I was a lieutenant. And I was in charge of an engine company that day, and we responded to a really, really bad house fire. This was on Buffum, north of North Avenue. Total recall. I'm sure you understand exactly what I'm like. Boom, I'm back there just thinking about it.
Yes.
And I crawled up to a burning attic, the second floor of this 2.5-story standard Milwaukee wood frame house, and second floor was really, really well involved in fire. And the first engine company was crawling through the second floor, and they were making good progress on that fire with their hose. So we were going up to the attic, which was also well involved in fire. And the person on the nozzle, his name's Fred, one of the finest firefighters I ever had the fortune to work with. And we are not making good progress in this attic. And there's a variety of circumstances that tip you off to that. We're laying on our bellies. Through our equipment, we are starting to burn.
Wow.
And the entire situation takes a hard turn on us. And it's not like in the movies or TV. You can't see anything. It's pitch darkness. Black. You can't even see your flashlight. It's such dense, thick, soupy smoke. So that loss of vision coupled with extreme heat coupled with you don't really know the layout of the space you're crawling into or where the furniture is or what is about to fall off the wall or ceiling on it. You don't know those things. And so you find yourself learning how to gauge the pressure, the heat, the sounds, and you make your decisions based on that. So we're not making progress. We're just a little bit off the stairwell trying to move towards the front of the attic. And the whole situation goes from what I just described to everything lights up and we are completely engulfed in fire. Which is not a good situation, as you might imagine.
Yeah.
But some dynamics of that situation changed and we were engulfed and we got pushed to the back wall of the attic. And I remember, when you're a kid and you do snow angels in the snow, I remember doing that on the attic floor, trying to relocate the stairs down. And at this moment...
Was that just instinct, the snow angels part?
No, I'll tell you what, that is lizard brain taking over. That is, I think I'm about to die. If I can claw my way through the flooring, I'll do that. In that process, I touch a windowsill. The windowsill was really low in this attic. I touch this windowsill and I yell to Fred, I got a window. And that's the choice you're making at that moment is we're going to go out what is a third floor window. No idea what's below. I know 3 stories that's a heck of a fall, but it's better than where we are. And in that moment, I have a 7 or 8 month old daughter at home. And always been pretty good at separating work from home because you don't want to let the two mix too much. And I had a very conscious thought. It probably lasted less than 1 second. I had a very conscious thought. This can't be how this ends. And I was picturing her and my wife at home. This can't be how this ends. And Fred and our other partner was on the top of the stairs. His name was Travis. And he could sort of sense everything. And we have specific positions we're all in for an effective firefight. And Travis held his position. He was near the top of the stairs, on the stairs. And he saw the whole thing go south. And all of a sudden he's trying to make contact with us. He knows we need the stairs. We need those stairs, something fierce. And he's sweeping out on his own. And he was a young firefighter at the time, Travis was. Very, very good instincts. And he slaps Freddie's boot. Freddie feels the slap. Freddie yells to me, I got him. And we dove down those stairs. We evacuated out of the building, out to the backyard, and our fire gear was smoldering. The antenna on my radio was melted. Our face pieces on our SCBA were all bubbled over and scorched. And so not really a great victory for us, other than we walked out of there alive. And, that change can happen, whether we're talking about a firefight, we're talking about a law enforcement scene or an EMS scene, or the dynamics can change so quickly. And I think that, I didn't really tell my wife about that till many years later.
Really?
Yeah, because, I'm certain that the mantle that our spouses bear in this line of work is more than we really acknowledge.
It's already tough.
It's tough enough. I leave for 24 hours, sometimes 48 hours for much of my career. And the very nature of what I do puts me in spots that those dynamics can shift and the whole thing can just be very different 30 seconds from now, which can result in either physical injury, maybe maybe psychological or emotional or moral injury, where I can come back home, I could be a totally different person, or I might not come back home.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And spouses just got to carry on. Family members just got to carry on as if, hey, okay, I got to take our daughter to school now and then go to work and pretend to not worry about these things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I didn't tell her about that for a long time.
That really resonates.
No. Yeah, go ahead.
It does. It really resonates. And I'm wondering, Chief, if you have had this experience. I've had the pleasure, of course, being on the Milwaukee Police Department for next month, 15 years.
Good.
And even the time of the capacity that I work in now as a recruiter, of course, we've crossed paths and worked on various projects. The chief is, of course, instrumental in our Camp Hero project that we always do with the Girl Scouts. And I find that different things that we face as first responders always brings back, even though some of it is tragic, it does bring a sort of openness and a vulnerability to our heart, which then lets me always recognize the nobility in what we do in our professions. You know, I was talking to a group of students over at UWM yesterday. And, you know, oftentimes the question comes up like, you know, what have you seen? What has bothered you and you can't shake? And, you know, and yes, there's a lot of situations. I happen to have a 14-year-old daughter now. At the time that an incident that I was involved in, well, not even involved in, but I was on scene at a hospital, witnessed a young lady who at the time was the age of my daughter, which was 8. Unfortunately, it was one of those situations where a gun was left out. Kids get a hold of guns and tragic results. And it was just, I couldn't shake it for the longest. It spurred me on, though, to have this. And I think I've fancied myself a person with compassion. That's one of the things that attracted me to the job. But it opens up and lets you recognize that there is a preciousness in human life. As much tragedy as we run into and we see, we also recognize that there's a beauty in our existence as well. It just happened that we're in professions that we have to restore order, or we have to go and make things whole again, or as much as we can. Yes. You know, but it lets you know, and it kind of adds that spiritual component to what we do. That says, hey, you know, even though we go into situations where we have to restore order, or we have to do things that, in order to preserve life or property, that is not the constant of human existence all the time. It just happens to be something we do for a certain amount of hours a day, and we have to keep that into perspective. Do you find that being the case?
Oh, it is. I think there can be a fork in the road for a person if they don't maintain, or perhaps aren't taught by, you know, people senior to them on the job, that compassion and that humanity of what we do. I can think of nothing that expresses humanity better, and I'm going to butcher the phrase here, but, you know, no greater love than to lay down one's life.
Absolutely.
For a fellow man or woman, right? Like,
yes.
And that may sound like a romanticized version of what we do. Right. Except when you're here doing it and you really see what it is. Yes. And my grandfather would always, like I was relating before, he would tell me these little tales of, like, when I was learning how to drive, I would drive with him, and you talk about a critic of the wrong moves, but he taught me this. He said, anytime you're driving down a street and there's cars parked on either side of the street, if you can, just always have your eyes moving and look for if you see feet, you know, sticking, you know, between the bumper and the road. If you can see little legs, Oh, okay, Grandpa. Okay. Well, I understand why that is now, because kids don't understand what a curb is or what traffic is, and it's just a place to run. And they jolt out from a car, and he had seen that how many times, and I've now seen that how many times. And what's a question we get asked an awful lot, and I know you guys get asked, what's the craziest thing you've ever seen?
Yes.
What's the most horrific thing you've ever seen? I don't think I've ever answered that question honestly, because they don't want to know. They don't really want to know. And the fact of the matter is it's not a game show. It's not an amusement park ride. These are real lives. These are real people.
Yes.
Who have suffered horrific injury or loss. And the drama of it, or the visual spectacle of it, that you get used to that. It's standing there trying to fix it with mom and dad wailing from their guts.
Yes.
That's the part that hits your brain and your heart.
Yes.
And people don't want to know what that feels like, having to go and tell somebody, we're sorry, we couldn't rescue your kid out of the fire.
Exactly. No doubt.
Wow.
No doubt.
No, before we get out of here, it was an amazing conversation. I learned so much. Thank you so much for your humility. We're always hiring for a police officer. So if this is something that you ever want to do, just serve people, serve humanity, definitely just go online to our website and apply for the police officer position. We will be hiring for firefighters soon also as well. So keep that in mind.
Absolutely.
And we mentioned Camp Hero too. And that's something that's going to be coming up soon. If you're interested, just text our number 414-519-6190 for more information, and we'll get you all that too.
God bless everyone. We will see you next week. Thank you, Chief Lipsky.
God bless.
We
Thank
appreciate
you.
you.